In the traditional liturgical calendar, today is considered Good Shepherd Sunday, the fourth Sunday after Easter is traditionally always that. They always say the same readings. And as such, you may have heard the readings and we read the Psalm 23. Let's start out our message tonight with a little video. We played snippets of it before the service, but if you weren't paying attention, 2,000 years ago, when Jesus spoke these words, the shepherds in Israel still tend their flocks in much the same way. So I want you to pay close attention to this video. It kind of shows the interaction between the sheep and the shepherd. Today I want to talk about what we learned today in this passage from John chapter 10. We just heard a story about a shepherd, a gate, a doorkeeper, thieves, and robbers. And who are these people? Well, the shepherd is Jesus, and the gate is also Jesus. The thieves and the robbers, well, they're the Pharisees. All who came before Jesus and proclaimed that they were the way are what were considered the robbers and the thieves in this passage. The Pharisees were false messiahs of the day. Jesus was talking about shepherds and gates and thieves and robbers. He was trying to make a point that there's a good shepherd and there's a bad shepherd. There's someone that you want to follow in life and there's someone you don't want to follow in life. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, how do you know the right person that's going to lead you to where the grass really is greener? Well, if the thieves and the robbers are the Pharisees, and Jesus gets to be both the shepherd and the gate, who do we get to be in the story? The sheep. That's who we are throughout all the scriptures. We just read earlier Psalm 23. We're the sheep in that story. The Lord is my shepherd. That means I'm a sheep. You're a sheep. That means all of us need to listen and learn and live life more sheepishly if we really want to be successful. Now, I'm not saying that we need to live in a cowardly way. We need to live in a sheepish way. And I'll explain that. We need to learn to think like a sheep, because that's who we are. And that's who the Bible compares us to again and again and again. Now, I'll tell you a couple things about sheep. If I'm a sheep, it means I'm very vulnerable. Sheep are very vulnerable creatures. God didn't compare us to rhinoceroses. He compared us to sheep. Yet, when you think about it, a lot of us try to live our life like some sort of spiritual rhinoceros. We want to have this armor on, totally protected from every hurt in life. We want to have this horn out in front of us. That way, when life gets in our way and we see something and we want to put our head down and go right for it, that's what the world is teaching us to do. That's how we go after life. We put our head down and we go right after it. But the problem is we're sheep. So we keep hitting our heads on things. And it hurts. That's because we're sheep. And then we're confused. And we're dazed and we wander around because we're vulnerable. Now, a couple things about sheep that we learned in this video. They stay in folds. They go at night into a sheepfold. Why? Because they can't stay out at night. They have to be brought into a fold to be safe and warm. The second thing about sheep is that they stay in folds and they stay in flocks. Sheep are not loners. They are together kind of animals. There's literally safety in numbers when it comes to sheep. And we're like sheep. We need a fold and we need a flock. We need a flock. We need a place of acceptance in our lives. And that's what this church is. That's what our relationship with Jesus is. It's that fold that we need, that secure place in my relationship with Him and the love that I have. It's that flock that I need. These others that I can be around to encourage and strengthen me. I'm like a sheep, and because I'm vulnerable, God has supplied these needs to my life. Another thing about sheep that we need to realize is that we're easily influenced. Everyone in this room, including myself, we tend to think that we make our own way, and that we make our own decisions, and that no one ever influences us. But we're like sheep. We're very easily influenced. In a flock, there are a few sheep that start heading off in the wrong direction, and the other sheep look over in that direction too. We do the same thing. If you don't believe me, there's certainly one industry that proves it to me, and that's the fashion industry. Have you ever looked back at pictures of yourself back in the 60s, or 70s, or 80s, or 90s? And do you really think you wanted to wear those bell bottoms, or those short shorts that we wore, or even the cargo pants? But everybody else was wearing them. So we're easily influenced. So we just kind of go along with the crowd. That's how human beings are. And that's why we need a shepherd, because we're sheep. We're vulnerable. We're very easily influenced. Jesus says, you're a sheep, and I'm the shepherd. In John chapter 10, he talks about how he can meet the needs of our lives. What does the shepherd do for the sheep? Well, it starts in John 2. Jesus starts to talk about it. He starts to paint this incredible picture and how the shepherd is able to meet the needs of the sheep. He's able to lead us to greener pastures. It starts with verse 2. It says, the one who enters the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep hear his voice. He calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out. So what does the shepherd do? He does two things. First of all, he calls us. He calls his own sheep by name. That means if I'm a sheep and I'm listening, I can realize that his voice is clear. He clearly calls his sheep. Many times at night, 2 or 3 flocks will be put together in the same big sheepfold. Even sometimes in the field, you have different flocks all mixed together. But there was no problem in the morning, because when the shepherd came in and wanted to take just his flock out, you heard it in the video. He came in and made some sort of weird sheep noise, that clicking noise, and the sheep could all understand it. The sheep in their fold could hear the shepherd's voice, and they all came out. They recognized their shepherd. And that's what it's like for you and I as believers. We hear a lot of voices in the world, but his voice is clear. It's different than any other voice. If we're going to live an abundant way, where the pastures are really greener, we've got to listen to his voice. Just as the shepherd called his sheep by name, our shepherd calls us by name. You see, Jesus is doing this throughout the Gospels. So listen. Listen for his voice. When you and I listen for his voice, we can begin to see his direction. Jesus is our good shepherd, and he knows us personally. He knows everything about us. He knows our uniqueness. He knows our problems. He knows our struggles. He knows our depression. He knows everything about us. Nothing you do surprises God. And that's important to remember. Nothing you and I can do will ever surprise God. He knows us that well. And it's not if one day that you're going to commit some sin and God says, wow, I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that. Well, he did expect it because he knows us. See, the good shepherd would know exactly where his sheep are going to go next. He knows exactly the ones that were prone to wander, and he knows exactly where they're going to wander. Jesus was like that because he knows us so well. If we listen for his voice, he'll warn us at the right time. He calls us. His voice is very clear. Now, there's a second thing that he does in these verses. He not only calls us, but he also leads us. His voice is clear, but also his direction is clear. He gives us clear direction for our everyday lives. Have you ever noticed how trying it can be to not know what direction you're going to go next? Confusion is very wearing. But Jesus clears up that confusion with his direction. It's part of the greener grass kind of living that he wants to bring into our lives. He says, I lead my sheep. I lead them out. Now in verse 4, he says, when he brought out his own, he goes ahead of them, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice. See, Jesus leads his sheep. He doesn't drive his sheep. He leads the sheep. Did you see in the video that we watched? The shepherd didn't walk alongside the sheep. He led them. And Jesus is our shepherd, and he's with us everywhere, but he leads out ahead of us. To lead the sheep, the shepherd has to walk ahead of the sheep. But that's a good deal for us, because if the shepherd is walking out ahead of the sheep, and there's a wolf, he's going to get to the wolf first. If the shepherd is walking ahead of the sheep and there's a ravine that the sheep might fall into, he's ahead of the sheep. So guess who gets there first? The shepherd. Now in your life, the rest of this week, you're not going to face a situation in your life that Jesus hasn't already faced. He came to earth to understand what you and I are facing every week of our lives. When you get there, the shepherd's already been there. Because he's already prepared a way out. He's already prepared a way of safety. Many times, you'll find if you're listening for his voice, he'll warn you in advance. So listen to his voice. Let him go ahead and lead you. In fact, Jesus goes on to teach us in verse 5, they will not follow a stranger, but they will run from him, because they do not know the voice of strangers. You know, really, I don't always like being compared to sheep. In some cases, the sheep tend to be a little smarter than we are. Sheep don't look and see a wolf in sheep's clothing and say, I know that's a wolf in sheep's clothing, but he's saying some really interesting things. So we're not going to follow him or anything, but let's get within an earshot and sort of hear what's going on with that wolf in sheep's clothing. Sheep don't do that, because if another comes in to try to lead them, they run away. They run away from false teachers. And that's a great lesson for us too. See, there are false teachers who say some real interesting things. I mean, false teachers don't have to have a Bible in their hand. It can be someone at your work who's giving you some false teaching about marriage. Or it can be one of your quote-unquote friends that you met recently who's giving you some false teaching about what it's like to be a parent. There's all kinds of false teachers in the world. They can be somebody on TV. There are false teachers on television shows and commercials and all over the media. They don't have to be religious. There is lots of false teachers in the world. But sheep are smart enough to run away from false teachers, even if it sounds interesting. Why? Because if we admit up I'm a sheep and that we're very influenced, if you don't think you can be influenced by a false teacher, you're lying to yourselves. I'm a sheep. I need to look at the right shepherd and let him lead my life. Make sense? It's a pretty simple message Jesus was saying. They're shepherds, they're sheep. But in this story, they didn't even understand it. Jesus was just trying to use a figure of speech with them, but they didn't understand what he was saying. So, in verse 6, what did he do? He tells the story again. So, again, Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who come before me are thieves and bandits, but the sheep did not listen to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters by me will be saved, and I will come in and go. I will come in and go out to find pasture." Jesus says, "I am the way in. I am the way to abundant life. I'm the way to eternal life. I'm the way to a joyous life. I am the way in." He's talking about our salvation. He is saying, whoever enters through me will be saved. Saved from our sin. Saved from our hurt. The greener pastures of life await. It's incredible to me that when Jesus makes this offer, so many of us miss it. A lot of times we think that we feel like we can cheat the system somehow. Like I found a way around it that no one else has figured out. There are other people who want to say, "I did it myself. I found a way in. I made the way for myself." Jesus says, you can't go over the wall. You can't cheat the system. You can't make the gate for yourself, because I am the gate. I am the way to your salvation. In this verse it says, "You came in and go out." This is a picture of security. Back in their day, with so many enemies out for the nation of Israel, there were so many enemies out for the sheep in the field that they understood what it meant to be able to come in and go out freely. If a sheep could come in and go out freely, it meant that there were no enemies. There was great security. God wants to give you and I that kind of security in life. That's what happens when I enter in. No worries about enemies, no worries about guilt, no worries about fear. Why? Because Jesus allows me to come in and go out. I find a place of security. Jesus says, do you want to find real life? Do you want to find the greater pastures that everybody is seeking in life? Follow me. I am the good shepherd. I need a shepherd. And when I find that shepherd, I find peace. I find joy. I find a satisfaction that is absolutely incredible. There's just one decision I have to make to allow this to happen in my daily life. I just enter the gate. Enter through the gate. Not my way, his way. Not someone else's way, his way. The result is greener pastures. The result is an abundant life. The result is what we read in John 10:10, one of the most famous verses in the entire Bible. It says, "The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I come that they may have life and have it abundantly." That's the result of entering through the gate. To have life to the fullest. Have life in superabundance. I'm not talking about having more things. I'm talking about having a better life. A better quality of life that you ever dreamed possible. His voice is clear, and his direction is clear. But more than everything else, his love is very clear. He died for us. That is crystal clear. The question in John 10 is, who or what am I going to allow to influence my life? That's a good question. I'm a sheep. Something's going to influence my life. Something's going to influence my life, but who am I going to allow to influence my life? Who am I going to trust as a shepherd? Jesus talks about three different kinds of people here: thieves, robbers, and shepherds. Am I going to fall prey to the thieves? The thieves are the people who try to use you. Just like a thief would try to use the sheep. All they want to do is take the sheep and sell them. But there are people in all of our lives who try to use us. Jesus compares the Pharisees to the thieves. And although the Pharisees were very religious people of the time, they were using others to make themselves feel more spiritual. They put religious loads on other people because it made them closer to God. They were using people spiritually. But this happens in our lives too. People will try to use us. Don't listen to them. They promise a lot, but they never deliver. Will I follow the shepherd? The shepherd is the one who leads life. Who is that? Jesus. I need him as my shepherd of my soul. How can I trust him? This one who calls my name. This one on ahead of me who gave me his life for me. If you really want to enjoy greener pastures, there are 3 things you need to listen to the shepherd. First of all, you need to listen to the shepherd. Listen closely to his voice. Remember that who is speaking is incredibly more important than what they're saying. Have you noticed how easily we're influenced by what someone is saying? Just turn on an infomercial someday and watch the whole thing if you can. You'll find at the end that you're almost thinking, this kind of makes sense. This sounds like it's a pretty good thing. We're still influenced by what people are saying. But when you turn the TV off, you're saying, well, this guy's just trying to make a buck off of me. We are so easily influenced by them. Listen to who's saying it. That's the most important thing in life. Thieves and robbers make all kinds of promises that they can't deliver on. Jesus can't do that. He's not going to do that. He tells us the truth. That's why thieves and robbers sometimes sound more attractive. But Jesus Christ is the only one who knows our names. He knows what we are really like. So please, listen to the shepherd. The second thing we need to do is follow the shepherd. We will follow someone. We're sheep. That's what we're like. We will follow someone. The question is, who? We might as well choose who we're going to follow. It's better than to let the world choose it for us. Even believers can get caught up in following the wrong shepherd. Maybe you have recently. Today, God brought you here for a reason to remind you that Jesus is the only way. He is the only one who really loves you. I'm going to focus back on listening to him. I'm going to go focus on his voice and follow him. The third thing we need to do is trust the shepherd. Sometimes you start to follow the shepherd, he starts to lead you in a direction, and you go and then you say, I don't know about this direction, Lord. It's a little dark down this direction. I've never been here before. I'm not sure I really want to go that way. You can trust the shepherd. Remember, Jesus is the one who laid down his life for us. That's how much he loves us. If he's leading you in a direction that seems unfamiliar, if he's leading you in a direction that causes you to face your fears, if he's leading you in a direction that you never expected, he's doing it because he knows you. He's doing it because he knows that's a direction where the greener pastures are. You might have to go through a valley or two on the way, but there is that direction where the abundance is in your life. He knows. He knows us, and he loves us. And that's how he leads us. Listen to him. Follow him. Trust him. He is a great shepherd. And he's leading us where the grass is really greener. Let us bow our heads and pray. Lord Jesus, I admit, I'm a sheep. I'm vulnerable. I'm very easily influenced. I thank you that you're willing to be my shepherd. You love me like no one else ever will. You know me and I trust you. If you promise that if I enter in through you, I will find abundant life, I trust that that's what will happen. If I follow your leadership, Jesus, I'm like everybody else in this room, a sheep that needs a shepherd. I admit how easy it is for me to follow my own ideas. Help me not to do that. Help me to trust you, to follow you. Not because I have to, because you don't force me. But Lord, because I want to, because I know that you love me like no one else does. I know that you're leading me to abundance. I know, Lord, that there is no other shepherd that's worth listening to. Help me, all of us, to follow you, Lord Jesus. In your name we pray. And all that things.
as the band comes up to lead us in a couple more songs, I think we got this reading there, right? Pull up the bulletin. Got it. The news up review, whatever. It's like John 10:10. Okay? It's our memory verse. It's a pop quiz, actually. John 10:10. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Let's say that together, okay? John 10:10. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I came that they may have life and have it abundantly. Boy, that sounds really bigger. Let's do it one more time. John 10:10. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy.